powering reliability to powering communities. We are Team Dynamic Dreamers from IIM Shillong, and we are super excited to be here in the finals of REDEFINE and shaping the power of tomorrow. So first of all, we wanted to understand the problem, the context, and the market opportunities. So the context is clear. XY Corp is a leading manufacturer of engines and gensets, but the current market environment is changing, and the world wants more hybrid solutions, storage, and service-based models. So consumers are now demanding end-to-end solutions and not just equipments. So now we stand at a crossroad. Should we stay a pioneer in the reliable equipment manufacturer, or should we transform into a new energy solution provider and lead India's new energy movement? So to understand this, we understood the energy snapshot. So India is at an inflection point where manufacturing units are experiencing 10% losses due to power cuts. And in the next 5 years, there could be a 700% increase in the energy demand according to NITI Aayog reports. There is a strong government push. The battery prices have never been lower. So it is a great time to enter into the new energy and renewable market. We have conducted extensive secondary research. We have read reports, news articles, and a lot of different reports. And yes, we can understand that India has a $3 billion opportunity by 2030 to drive due to reliability gaps, policies, and energy transformation. And we have not just done a secondary research, we have actually validated our assumptions by talking to professors, by talking to people who are working in the industry, and talking to potential customers. And they have not just helped us shape our solution, but helped us reach a problem and a solution that is actually demanded in the market currently. So, the answer is clear that yes, there is a demand and the future is service-led, so we should enter this market.
Now, moving on to the solution. When we are looking at all the possible opportunities, we came across different possible solutions we could confirm. Now, when we had an analysis of the internal fit and the external fit looking at the environment, we came to the conclusion that there could be 3 possible solutions of our problem. Those are energy storage and hybrid systems, digital energy platforms, and energy as a service model. Now, moving on to our first solution, which is energy storage and hybrid systems. When we are looking at energy storage and hybrid systems, we see that industries don't want to compromise when it comes to uptime. And that's why the hybrid systems provide reliability and cost cutting when it comes to that. Now, moving on to the next solution, which is digital energy platforms. When we are talking about EMS, when we're talking about the EMS, we see that power shouldn't just run, it should also think. So our IoT and AI-enabled system provides some level of support so that there could be efficiency and cost savings. Now, looking on to our third solution, which is energy as a service model. When we're talking about energy as a service, we see that clean energy should also be accessible, not only capex heavy. So our OPEX model, which is operational expenditure model, ensures that the costs are removed and that there could be affordability in the systems. Now, moving on to our customer segmentation and needs. We are looking at 3 tiers when it comes to customers. First is reliability first. When we are looking at reliability, we see data centers and hospitals, which have a policy of no compromise when it comes to uptime. Then we look at the economics first customers. When we are talking about economics first, we see manufacturing and commercial centers, which need a reduced cost in OPEX and a reduced diesel dependency. Now, when we are looking at the third tier, which is emerging sustainability driven, we see that these kind of EV charging hubs and logistic parks, they are looking at ESG goals and net zero. Now we can also see a graph here where we are moving from the early adopters to the late adopters, and we can see that almost our 70% of the current client base can be the ones who are adopting these level of services. Next, the question remains that who are our competitors? We can see that we have various competitors in the market. So how could we signify the competitive landscape? So we have made a 2x2 matrix in which we see the integration capacity and the digital capabilities of our competitors, through which we have given them multiple scores, and these scores, by scoring them, we can see the competitive landscape. Next, we can talk about what is the value proposition to XY Corp here in our solution. So when we're looking at our value proposition, we can see there are 3 divisions which we are already working with, which is PGD, CSD and SSD. Now we can see that 70% of our infrastructure already exists, and we need some integration into software, financing and partner ecosystem. Now we can see that this shift already has the future proofing and drives high ROI and can make some white space while ensuring that we make profit with purpose. Now, when we are looking from concept to scale, we will be talking about building the ecosystem. So how do we do that? We have a pilot and implementation plan in which we have phase 1, which is from 0 to 12 months. Now, this will be our foundation year for the plan. When we're looking at the foundation year, we have 3 focus areas: hybrid genset, digital EMS and EaaS. Now when we're looking at hybrid, we can see that we will be making retrofit, we will be focusing on retrofitting the existing gensets with lithium ion batteries, and we will be doing that on 10 pilot sites. Next is digital EMS, where we will be focusing on remote monitoring and dispatch, and this will be done on 20 pilot sites. Next, our EaaS pilot portfolio, when we will be focusing on 20 pilot contracts through SLA matrix with some NBFCs, when we are looking at IRR of around 27%. We can also see that during this phase, we will need some partnerships, and some of the critical partnerships would be battery suppliers, inverters and financing partners.
Moving on to phase 2, post phase 1 and receiving feedback and improvements, phase 2 would focus on national rollout, where we have set targets for FY 2028. We would target to install 2,500 plus gensets plus hybrid system plus BESS with a revenue of 1,400 crores. Post that, in parallel, we would be targeting to acquire 600 plus EMS paying customers and 900 plus EAS subscriptions. To succeed, we would be institutionalizing capabilities, create digital operations command center for 24/7 fleet monitoring, build energy performance analytics team for AI-based diagnostics, and create a certification program for dealers, because of the complexity of installing hybrid systems plus BESS is something that would deter away customers initially. Talking about the role that divisions would play. PGD would be engaged in standardizing the entire process that will lead to 10 to 15% reduction in the costs eventually in the future. CSD would be focusing on development of EMS version 2, which would involve automation through API integrations, ERP implementations of the customer into the system. SSD would lead the national EAS rollout, manage SLAs uptime 99.5%, and enhance customer experience.
Now moving on to the third phase of implementation. So in the third phase, what we want to do is transform from just an equipment manufacturer to lead India's service model. So, in this phase, we have to combine our, We have to combine our diesel, solar and battery providers, and we will be working with all of the divisions. And for the future-led capabilities, we have AI-driven predictive maintenance, optimization, blockchain-based SLAs. And
we have 5 more minutes for the presentation.
So moving on to the partnerships. So to implement this, we would need multiple partnerships, and for partnerships, we have made a make, buy, borrow model where we will be making things that we have internal capabilities for. We'll be borrowing things for which there are already established suppliers, and we'll be buying things for which we see strategic partnerships in the future.
Now moving on to financials. We incorporated XY Corp's capability, our roadmap and industry benchmarks while modeling it for 5 years, where we considered incremental investment in 4 plants, that would be Fulton, Jamshedpur, Ahmednagar, etc., which would be phased in year 0 and then year 3, and that would increase capability of production in year 4 and year 5. So we took, modest operating margin, which is in compliance with the benchmark, 10% for year 1, year 2, and year 3, and 15% for year 4 and year 5. Post that, for digital EMS, we considered operating margin again in line with the industry standards, 20%, and considered 400 rupees per month for per field instrument to be charged when we start, and then to incorporate inflation, etc., 1.1% increase in the later years. Next, for EAS, we considered 8% of the yield on capex that they would be possibly paying, but on basis on usage that the customer would be using later on. Again, operating margin of 17% in line with the industry benchmarks. Post that, we conducted a risk analysis where the main risk was the complexity of installing hybrid genset plus BESS. So the way we would mitigate is certification programs of dealers. And next, the highest risk that we came across for digital EMS was low switching costs. This could be dealt with a little more modular EMS where the customers could choose what to pay for exactly. ES would be upfront ownership and the capital intensity that we would be dealing with. So we suggest SPV financing for this vertical. And coming to trade-off analysis and in the short term, we focus on BESS and hybrid system plus EMS, but in the long term, to increase customer stickiness with the organization, we plan to focus on EAS.
Now, quickly going through the other consideration which we had, one of them is compliance and regulations. So when we are looking at the compliance, we have gone through multiple acts through which we have checked that if our policies will be compliant to them or not. Next, we have the sustainability and impacts matrix. We are hitting 5 sustainability goals, which are 7th, 9th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Now we can see that there are multiple corporations which had, like for example, NAPCC. We are mitigating the GHG emissions as per that. So there are some examples which we have on the slide in terms of sustainability goals we are meeting. Now, when we are looking at our whole system, we are not only doing things strategically, financially, and operationally. We are also hitting the spot when we are looking at the vision, values, and mission of XY Corp. So there is some brand and cultural alignment in our solution as well. That will be all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll start with some simple questions. So, one of the recommendations is to go ahead and retrofit some of the existing DG set population with base and reduce cost. What is the going in assumption that retrofitting a base will reduce cost?
Because XY Corp already has a lot of network of DG sets, they are the largest distributors, so they have an established customer base. So if instead of building a whole new model, they can just incorporate a battery set in the existing DG systems, that would reduce costs and it would actually encourage the existing customers to buy the new products because it would save their costs as well.
What are your assumptions on the cost side, basically on the product and also the cost of energy? Like, how exactly will it save cost?
Yeah,
so according to Bloomberg, the cost of making a battery is about $115 right now. And while making a new hybrid system plus BESS, we kind of put a multiplier by 3x because it would involve a number of systems for hybrid system. So we came to 37,000. So if the genset is already existing at the client location, it's something that the client doesn't have to invest in anymore. And we don't have to produce an entirely new system for the client as well. It's something that we can add on with just hybrid system. So that would significantly reduce cost while keeping up the adoption rates.
Okay, maybe I'll just switch. By the way, I did not get exactly the answer that I'm still trying to ask for. Okay, but let's park it there. The second question on the EMS side. Okay, you made a very interesting statement that energy should not only flow, it should also think. What are those enablers which will make your energy to think in the EMS?
Okay, so when we are looking at the EMS, we are looking at predictive analysis and using IoT. And so when we are looking at the EMS, we are looking at having some kind of predictive analysis. If we have a system and we can forecast what kind of demand these centers will have. For example, we have pilot sites, data centers and hospitals. If we have some kind of analysis system in which we are forecasting the demand, so we can produce energy according to that.
Because in a hybrid system, there are multiple energies being used. There's diesel being used, there's solar being used, there's battery being used. So if a digital EMS can actually predict energy patterns and see when the upkeep time is there, when the outages are there, it can actually predict it and use the energy accordingly. So it would save costs for the consumers. So that is why it can, lead to, it can think and it can give better results and save financials for the consumers as well.
Okay, thanks.
I'll ask a question on, I was just curious in terms of, you mentioned that you have assumed a certain capex for the 4 engine plants. So why do you need capex for the engine plants?
It is more of incremental investment to add a battery pack assembly line, testing labs, thermal and safety testing labs. And third, it would be inverter staging, etc. We considered few more additions to what existing genset plants that XY Corp.
No, so the reason I was just curious is, why wouldn't you build a separate plant or have a dedicated facility for a battery rather than clubbing it with an engine or a...
We are trying to keep it capital light model for now, because it is something that the company would be experimenting with the adoption rate in the industry.
So how have you taken the trade-off between scale? Because if I have everything at one central location, I have scale, and I have now distributed across 4, there's no scale, but you are saying my capex will be lower. So how have you thought of the trade-off?
We are already manufacturing gensets in the same location. It's just an addition for the battery package and testing that we are aiming with the capex.
Correct, but
so that is
in
again,
incremental investments you do 4 times across 4 plants, right? That's the reason I was asking.
Yes.
And you train the manpower for 4 sites.
Because in our, we will be starting with pilots and initially the capex would be more, but in our roadmap we actually want to, in the next 5 years we want to scale and become the, leaders in India's energy movement. So investing more in the first year would give a huge capex, but as we scale more, having capabilities from year 1 at 4 different centers will actually help us in scaling in the future and help us with our future roadmap of 5 years, and then we can be industry leaders if we train from year 1.
I just briefly want to go back to Sachin's question and why an incremental investment and an existing site makes value. So the customer's already got an installed capacity, he's comfortable with it. So why is there a model there to add a battery?
It's more of, we don't want to invest in building an entirely new plant when there is a plant that's already manufacturing gensets. We just
No, this was the question on the customers, right? So you made a point saying that you're going to add a battery to an existing genset in the field. Those are sold assets with customers. So what's the model or the thinking there? The customer doesn't need anything more. If we are going to get something out of it, we have to get into an agreement on how we're going to extract that power. So what's the thinking there?
So when we did our primary research, we actually reached out to people who were working in the energy sector, and they gave us some insights that in the upcoming years, the pollution board guidelines will actually, make people they cannot function 100% with the diesel sets, right? They have to offset it with some of the solar or some renewable energy or some sort of battery backups. So in the upcoming future, people will actually have to switch from purely diesel sets that they have to some sort of hybrid systems. And instead of purchasing a whole new hybrid system, they can actually just purchase a battery, retrofit, and they can actually convert their existing system. So it will help reduce their pollution. It would help them with the guidelines of pollution board and.
Yeah, but why would they come to the XY corporations? Batteries are going to be available very easily, right?
So XY Corporation has actually built a reputation with the sellers, like they are the largest distributors, and they have an established customer base. So when they have to, get a new battery for their existing gensets, then the reliability, the trust they have built across 60 years will help. And we'll also give them warranty for the batteries, a separate warranty. And if we are the manufacturers of the original gensets and we'll be selling the battery, it would give them more reliability that they'll be compatible compared to other battery providers.
Okay. Just have another question. I think you classified 3 segments. One was going after the data centers, followed by the economy first, and the third one. So, and you also said 1,400 kind of a revenue aggressive in the second to third year. What is actually going to be the path? Are you going to go into the data centers first? Are you going to, because you also mentioned a lot of competitors around.
Yeah.
So what is the primary recommendation on how you enter the market?
So we are going with the CNI, first the industries, because of the GHG rules of 2025, that cement, chlor-alkali and aluminium, they have to reduce their emissions by 40 to 60% in 2 years respectively. So those are the regulatory requirements. So they are the ones that would be early adopters for us. So those are the ones that we'll be targeting. Data centers, since they are still in construction in India, and their adoption rates would be relatively lesser compared to these industries which are going to fall under regulation. So data centers come next.
So in terms of overall risk, we are still hoping that the regulations come on time. And the assumption is if all that goes fine, we are going after the most premium ones. What happens if those don't come through?
So
We
again,
made
we
all
have
these
factored
investments.
this into our risk and mitigation strategy. So if right now there's a lot of policy push from government, there's viability gap funding, and there are green bonds, there's carbon credits. So there are a lot of policies that already exist, and the battery prices have never been lower. So we did take into consideration that if all of these things do not go according to plan, if government does not come up with the policies or the battery prices go up, we'll still have a profit, but our IRR will definitely go lower than what we have predicted, but it will still be positive. So according to our financial model.
Also adding on, there are few industries that face a serious gap, like shrimp farming, where even 30 minutes of power disruption would cause the shrimp to actually, the mortality rates is higher, and they use a lot of diesel generators. So it is something that they can adopt under the EAS model, since they are not the size is not that great for them to afford a capex model. So industries like shrimp farming, irrigation for agriculture, etc. Those are the kind of industries, irrespective of regulation, they will be.
Okay, thank you.
We have 5 more minutes, so we can take up the questions from the leaders or the audience as well.
So team, my question is, if you go to your slide on the selection of these 3 areas, you had a big list from which you selected. I'm very curious to know how did this selection really happen?
Actually, we have included that in our appendix. So we did see the internal fit as well as the external fit, and for both the internal capabilities of the firm and the external environment, the policy push, the market and the adoption, we have given weight to all of the factors, and then we have ranked all of the 6 different alternatives, and based on that you can see we have done AHP, hierarchical process ranking, and then we came up with these 3 would be the best to enter the market right now.
Okay. Now, the opportunities that you have mentioned, right? You have spoken a lot around. It's still around what XY Corp is doing, right? It's more on the backup power space. If you look at the theme, it's from backup to backbone.
Yeah.
So my question is, did you look at the rest of the value chain of the power, and did you really say, can XY Corp enter into other spaces within the power chain? Did you evaluate that?
Can you repeat your question?
You have the value chain of power, which starts from power generation to power distribution, and you have the end customers. What you have mentioned here, the gensets, distributed energy, BS manufacturing, these are all largely related to your customer side, right? Which could be the behind the meter sort of thing, it's closer to the customer. Have you thought of options? Because here XY Corp is wanting to look at the whole value chain and see what all can we enter into, right? It's pretty much a wide space. Did you think about solutions in front of the meter or towards the generation transmission side also?
I think the solutions that we have picked up are also front of the meter only, because currently
It's because mainly of competitors like Tata Power that is leading in front of the meter space. They service utilities, etc. So they are the dominant players. We want to focus on underserved CNI segment right now.
So you believe that space is already, you have enough players there and there is no gap there?
I mean, there is a lot more opportunity behind CNI segment. That is why.
and the short-term profitability and the opportunity to dominate the market would be more in these compared to if we go into already a red ocean rather than we can enter a blue ocean.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dynamic Dreamers. Your teamwork, confident, truly reflect the spirit of REDEFINE.